projections, and we continually refine these projections as we receive additional information about the quantity of megawatts that might be reduced as a result of dynamic pricing. We looked at it a number of different ways. In this case, just illustratively, what we have is the stack up of what dynamic pricing might offer in terms of peak demand reductions in the out years. And this is a table that we had run some time ago, so I haven't adjusted this out in time. So this is all slowed out to basically a 2012 start, roughly, at this time. And but it gives you a sense for the additional DER benefits that, just from a pure pricing standpoint, that might result. One of the key items that we did was we worked with Brattle Group basically to do some elaborate modeling in terms of what the impact of basically additional demand response, particularly dynamic pricing, would bring to within our region of the PJM marketplace. And Brattle had just completed a large study for PJM, and we had them look specifically at our markets and kind of provide some very detailed modeling work in terms of what kind of impacts there would be there. Basically, you have short-run price mitigation effects, and then you have long-run resource valuation. But we do think that additional DER in the markets, particularly our markets, has considerable value. One of the challenges here that we get asked a lot by some of our commissioner interveners is exactly what the price impact on individual customer classes are and individual customers. So in our Maryland market, for example, we ran bill impacts by class of customer to try to provide the customer with a sense of what the customer savings would be likely to be when you added all of the components in. Because one of the keys is, is this going to be net beneficial to consumers, and are there going to be any consumers essentially left out in the cold? And, how can we demonstrate to our customer base that we're taking the right steps here? So we've done quite a bit of work there looking at individual bill impacts. And we have looked also as part of that effort as to, how costs might be recovered over time. And that's probably in its own webinar itself. So just to wrap up, we think we're moving forward on AMI deployment. We've spent a lot of time looking at various components of the business case, dealing with issues about the shaping of dynamic pricing. The SMIPI project in the District of Columbia, the Smart Meter pilot in DC, was very informative in terms of knowing the types of dynamic pricing that might be desirable, and knowing how to basically begin to shape the consumer education messaging. But again, one of the things that we've found in all the states is different states will want different things looked at, and drilled down on, and try to be as forthcoming as we can be. But there are obviously a number of calculations that have to be made each time there's a twist on something else that's requested. So we think the path is good, but to get there, it is a fairly time-consuming process.
Thanks so much, Steve. Great stuff. We've got time for one question, and I'll throw it out there for anyone. And that is, a number of people have questions around some of these benefits depend on long-term behavior change, and some folks have questions about whether the customers in their service territory would be amenable to these, and just generally, how confident do you feel that these are lasting benefits? I'll open that to anyone.
Yeah, this is Steve, and I certainly both Chris and Rick will have their own perspectives. One of the questions that I got from one of the commissioners one time was, how do you know price matters here? We're fairly confident that price matters a great deal to customers and markets, but it'll be a portion of each market that basically is active in responding. And it doesn't take everyone to respond to price signals to basically provide value, long-run value. So, we do think it's sustainable. We think a key part of it is customer engagement and education and presenting the right actionable information to consumers.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. It's not well known, but Arizona has had large penetration of time of use pricing among residential customers for 20 years now. About a third of customers are on time of use pricing. So they've followed their behavior for 20 years, and the demand reductions have been consistent over that period of time. So we do have that one long range. On the energy information feedback, we don't have that kind of long range, so we can't be certain about that one. But we do have it for the time of use pricing.
Well,
it's also important to notice that we're depending on technologies, enabling technologies, and you know, eventually new kinds of appliances, electric vehicles, and those sorts of things that are going to mean a fundamental change in the types of equipment customers are using, which can't take advantage of these price signals. So there's certainly reason to think that just because you're moving from one kind of appliance to another, that you are going to get some permanence in results.
Well, thank you. Well, because of time, there's just 3 things remaining to do, and that's a suggestion, a thank you, and a reminder. Suggestion, we will leave the webinar up here for a few extra moments. So if you've got additional questions, please feel free to type them in even after we stop talking. We are going to try and answer those. We will send you an email with those answers, and we'll send you a link to the slides. I also wanted to say thank you very much to Chris King, to Rick Morgan, to Steve Sunderhoff, and to eMeter for making this possible. And to visit SmartGridNews.com and watch for our next Lessons from the Real World webinar. As a matter of fact, if you've got suggestions for future topics, a follow-on to this or anything else, please use your question box to give us your insights. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.